Twins on deck for the Marlins, and they make some roster moves. Dane Myers is back. Final two series back for Dane Myers, and Christian Pache DFA'd. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out. The Marlins move on. Tons to get into ahead of the last but one series of the 2024 campaign on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins, your daily Marlins pod. I am your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up, of course, at Miami Marlins _UK. And thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. This is your team every day, and it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. There is a YouTube channel, so hit subscribe over on the YouTube channel. It is also called Locked On Marlins, easy to find, easy to enjoy, and easy to comment. Actually, the comments have been on fire. Anytime you talk about Shohei Ohtani, seemingly, the comments go insane. So yesterday's episode, we were talking Ohtani, a lot of comments. But join me in the comments and let me know your thoughts. I want to hear from you guys, specifically around Sandy Alcantara trade packages. There was a fun suggestion, let's call it that, put on Twitter yesterday. Sandy Alcantara to the Red Sox. I actually think this is a really nice fit generally. I don't think the package was quite right, but we will see. Let me know where you think Sandy could land if the Marlins indeed look to move him at some point in 2025. This episode is sponsored by our good friends over at Booking.com. And Booking.com, Booking.yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. And delighted to welcome onto the show, returning stud, legend, loud Marlins fan. Chase, how are we doing?
6 games remain, Peter. 6 games. We could put this season behind us, far behind us. We're doing all right. Happy Tuesday to you.
Happy Tuesday. I mean, not that we're counting down, but we are counting down. It's fair to say that this season has been a struggle and a challenge for everyone involved, no doubt. But 6 games to go, 2 series remain, all on the road. They're done with the homestand. They're now on the road into Minnesota, and then finishing up in Toronto. There's going to be a few interesting storylines at the back end, no doubt. But generally, Chase, just you've been a fan of the Marlins for a long time. They've been poor many, many times in many, many seasons. Where does this one rank for you generally?
This has to be at the bottom of the seasons I've had to deal with. As a fan, 98, I was young. I was like 13 or 14, but 98 was rough. The new ownership year that just happened was rough. You go back to 2006 or 7, when the Marlins made those trades of Miguel Cabrera and whatnot, but that wasn't really rough under Joe Girardi because, that team overachieved. Did last year's team overachieve? Because I think the most fun I've had since 03 was last year. But this year has to rank at the bottom of Marlins fandom seasons. Just from the beginning, you get in, you start 1-9, you lose all your pitching. Really, this season was done in April, give or take. April, right? Maybe May. Rise is gone. The trades at the deadline. There's one thing that held this team together. We have 6 days left of him, unfortunately, and that's Skip Schumaker. But we can be excited because, as you see on the rundown, Dane Myers is back.
Oh, baby. No, I think it's a really good call out. Like
a big Dane. We're going to throw on his shirt because I'm happy he's back.
Oh, man. There we go. We got the Dane Myers t-shirt going on now. So we mean business. You've got the right t-shirt for the right podcast and the right episode. Dane is back. But just before we get into Dane, good call out though, mate. This one for me ranks, I would say, right at the bottom too. There's been other years in recent years where the Marlins have not been good. But unfortunately, in those years, there's always been guys that have, kept your attention. You've been tracking along with like a Sandy and those types of seasons and whatever it might be. But man, oh man, just like the zero pitching situation has just made this a really tough watch. And then obviously Soler wasn't back. Arias was moved quickly. Jazz then followed at the deadline. And so the core of 2023 and that offensive group that, although was under par, those were the main contributors. They're moved, plus zero pitching. Bullpen took a bit of a step back as well to start the year. Man, 24 has been super rough. I don't think there's any way of sugarcoating it. Would you say you're looking forward to the season ending?
I'm looking forward to the 2025 season starting. Being a Major League Baseball fan, I hate the season ending. Baseball keeps us during the summer intrigued. I'm excited for what can the future be. Am I excited that the season's ending? No, I hate when the season ends, but I am happy in a way because we're going to put it behind us and hopefully next year be better. You and I have had these discussions on Locked On Marlins since you've been the host. We went through the bad Don Mattingly years of the 67 wins and the 69 wins. Last year, of course, better year under Skip. This year, who knows how many wins we'll finish with this week. But it's been rough, Pete, and I'm happy that 2025 is just 18 weeks away.
Oh, baby, we're counting it down already. 18 weeks away for 2025. How active do you see the Marlins being this offseason? Obviously, we've still got a couple of series to go. We got the postseason to roll in, the World Series. Our attention will be kind of deviated away from the Marlins, I guess, for the next month and a half, let's say. But how active do you see them being this offseason?
I see them needing to bring in some veterans to kind of help what will be the future of this team coming out of the AAA squad. I mean, they made these trades. How fast is Davison De Los Santos going to be before he's a major leaguer? How fast is Augustin Ramirez going to take before he's up? You're going to have players to mesh with them. And I don't see Peter Bendix spending a lot of money. But he made moves. You already have Connor up. You have Stowers up. Dane Myers should be on the opening day roster. I don't know what they're going to do with Griffin. I think Jesus Sanchez could be a move this offseason. I don't know if they're going to be able to trade Jesus Luzardo. It's not so much how active they're going to be to sign people. It's more how active they're going to be to make moves, to bring in players, to kind of bolster what is already turned into a good farm system or better farm system. So let's see. That's the intriguing part. Again, I don't see them being active as far as any huge signings this year.
Definitely no huge signings. There may be. Give me, major league signings, considering they left it late. They didn't make any moves, but they kind of had a buzzer beater with Tim Anderson, obviously. And, many at that point were crying out for moves in and above that, because, clearly Sandy was down. They were dealing with other injuries. They didn't bring back Soler. They made the move with Anderson, but, free agents, major league free agent signings. How many do you think there are this offseason for the Marlins?
2.
Yeah, I think that's a fair number. To be honest with you, I could see that. I feel like the over-under is set probably at 1.5 or 2.5, to be honest with you. I think you're right.
If they go past it, it's going to be bullpen help. It's not going to be position players or starting pitchers. It has to be bullpen guys who've had a bad year this year in 24 who need a year to revamp, and it will be 1-year deals, if anything.
1-year deals, extravaganzas. Maybe some veteran guys could be interesting. To your point, they maybe need to add some degree of veteran leadership into this group because it's going to be young. You mentioned Griffin Conant. I just want to briefly get your sense of what you've seen with Griffin. He's obviously been called up, and there's been further moves since. He hasn't being sent back down. He looks like he's going to come up and stay with the Marlins for for the rest of the season, effectively for him. What have you made of Griffin's start to the big leagues with the Marlins? And what do you see the future looking like for him into next year?
A platoon, if not a bench bat. He's had 3 weeks. He's batting .238 going into tonight's game. 63 at-bats, 15 hits, which is good. It's okay. Slugging is .413. OPS is 727. He's probably just who he was advertised to be. He's the guy who's going to strike out. He's going to get on base, but he's going to hit home runs, and he has 2. So that's who he is, and I'm happy he got this opportunity, but he's not a major league starter, if anything.
He's looked pretty decent in the outfield, though, I must say. Like, he's definitely made an impact in right field, no doubt. The arm is a cannon, right?
Yeah, his arm is going to be a plus, right? He has good defense, but, you got to hit.
Yeah, no, you do. I think that label could be kind of put in any of the projected Marlins outfield's door. Frankly, I think, interesting to see what mix they go in with Griff, like we've mentioned, like he's going to be fighting for a spot. Stowers is fighting for a spot. Jesus Sanchez, I think if he's still with the organization, I'm going to come to you on him because, you mentioned you think he could be moved, but let's assume Jesus is around. You probably feel most comfortable, I would say, about Jesus Sanchez delivering in that kind of strong side platoon situation. Derek Hill's, it feels to me like the Marlins like Derek Hill as well. Javier Sanoja's been up. Victor Mesa Jr. has kind of been out. Like, they've got a ton of names. But man, oh man, I don't really feel overly confident about any of the names in general that can actually be an everyday player. I don't think one everyday player in the potential outfield mix for the Marlins. I mean, there's a lot of platoon guys and a lot of question marks.
Yeah, you have to kind of solidify what you're thinking out there. Again, I don't think Sanchez is going to be here. He's going to be making over $3 million, second year of ARB. He's going to be one of the highest paid players, if not the highest paid position player on this team going into next season or in next season. They got rid of, that's Jazz money. They just got rid of that money, and Jazz was in first year of ARB, but that's Jazz money. And is Jesus worth it to this team? Does he provide the veteran leadership? You've seen him, for no fault or his fault, you've seen him make mistakes and get taken out of games because of them. Yeah. He's all fun and games. He's a great guy, smile and everything. But is he worth that money to the team? You have Kyle Stowers, you mentioned, batting .216. Griffin Conine, I mentioned, 238. Dane Myers, before he left with injury, was at 2, and going into tonight is at 265. It's a bunch of these players that are under average hitters. So who's going to stand out? Who's going to spend the offseason practicing? Who's going to come into spring and earn their roles on this team? We will see.
Exactly. A lot of questions. Spring is going to be fun. No doubt about it. And spring is going to be a straight up battle because there's just so many guys that it's really hard to differentiate or put them at levels at this point. Like, I look again, the outfield mix to me, everyone's on a level playing field, really. So it's going to be very interesting. Take away Stowers' maybe prospect pedigree. Let's take away Griffin Conine's pedigree linked to his name with this organization. I mean, I've got to be honest, from what I've seen, with my own eyes watching the two of them in the last month or so, I've got to be honest, I don't think there's a ton of difference between them. And I maybe lean towards Griffin Conine, to be honest with you, as like who has a better, season in 25. I could see Griffin Conine having a better season than Kyle Stowers if given the opportunity. I mean, Stowers it was a super rough start, made a few adjustments, and then he's had another struggle, and then he's kind of been okay since. But man, oh man, it's been a general rough stint for Kyle Stowers with the Marlins, in my opinion, and I don't think we should take anything for granted with him. I know he's part of a trade package, but it felt like, Norby was the piece they really wanted in that. And, Stowers is fighting for a job, in my opinion. What about you?
Definitely, he's fighting for a job again. 216 hitting. That's not a major league hitter. He
No,
was
it's
brought
not.
to this team. He's filled the spot that he was brought in to fill. At the deadline, Peter Bendix knew he was trading De La Cruz. He knew he was trading Jazz. It opened up positions.
Yeah.
Who knows how that phone call went, but that trade for the pitcher was based on Connor Norby. So you get Connor Norby. Stowers was a throw-in. Hey, take him. We don't have a spot for him. Give him the opportunity. And he really didn't run with it, unfortunately.
Well, one guy, we haven't mentioned at all yet. We're going to mention straight after the ad is Dane Myers. He's back. Christian Pache as well. DFA, the corresponding move. So we're going to dig into that. Before we do that, firstly, let's let you know about our good friends over at eBay Motors. And passion, drive, and patience. It is the formula for winning championships. And is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked On Marlins on Tuesday, the 24th of September with me, Peter Pratt, and Chase, that Marlins fan, is in the house. Dane Myers is back, having fractured his foot, kicking a door or kicking something. Not what Dane was looking for. A learning experience for Dane, but is pleasing, in my opinion, to see him back. And we'll see what playing time he gets in these next two series. But where do you sit on Dane Myers? Obviously, a interesting story associated with Dane Myers. And, coming back from injury at this point, but more generally, where do you sit on Dane? Like, are you a Dane fan? Are you a Dane believer? You've got the t-shirt on, so I'm assuming yes.
Yes, I believe in Dane Myers.
I believe, baby.
I believe. Look, Dane should have made the opening day roster this year, and he didn't because Avisayo Garcia did. You saw the difference that Dane made coming up. He's a big guy. He's a big guy. He has a bigger build, right? He's taller. He could bulk out a little bit. He adds a game to this team. Stuff we were missing. He deserved to be on the opening day roster. He didn't come up. I don't think it was until mid-June, maybe just before end of May. But he made a difference, whether it was stealing the base. I think he had 2 walk-off hits. He hit a couple home runs. He made a difference in the lineup, and he brings energy. He's a big ball of energy, and you need that. So I'm a big Dane believer. I've spoken to him frequently while he's been out. He was so unhappy with himself. That was not his character. We all watched it on TV, right? We watched that game. It was a strike. He believed it was a ball. Gets kicked out of the game in anger. And you know what? He's a young guy. He made a mistake. We discussed it then. And then he posted on Instagram and on Twitter a lengthy message about how that's not his character. Teams hate when players injure themselves with off-field antics.
Yeah.
So he obviously felt that. He was listening to the media say negative and nasty things about him, and he owned up to it, apologized for it. Dane Myers.
Have we lost Chase? He's ended on Dane Myers. I don't know. All right. I think Chase signal has dropped off. It's always possible with these UK-US hookups. So we'll wait for Chase to rejoin. Before we do that, let's hit the final ads. Oh, Chase is back. Chase, you ended on Dane Myers. I don't know exactly where you were going, but I think you were saying you're a believer. By the way, just to finish up on Dane Myers, I am the same as you. I've always been, when he came up in 23, which was a story then, when he came up in 23, I was watching these at-bats, I was watching the hits, and I was like, okay, there's something here. He should have made the roster, opening day roster in 24. Like you said, Avisel Garcia blocked him. That was what it was. They didn't want to move the money then for whatever reason. They made the right decision later in the year. But Dane Myers came up, and it was the same kind of Dane. It was a guy that you look at and think, there's a player here. There's a player here. And I've seen more out of Dane than I've seen definitely out of Stowers. Probably more than I've seen out of Hill. I look at Dane as one of the favorites to be getting significant playing time in the outfield in 25. And I'm glad he's back. I think he can make a sizable impact. And I think the opportunity is also going to be there for him in 25. We've spoken about it. Are they going to go heavy on free agents? No, they're not. And I think there's a real big opportunity for Dane Myers to have like 450, 500 at-bats maybe in 25 for the Marlins. And after that point, it wouldn't shock me if Dane Myers is the highest WAR contributor offensively for the Marlins in 25. I'm going to lay that on the line right now. Listen, I'm going to call it now. I haven't thought about this at all, but just on the fly, Dane Myers is the WAR leader for the Marlins offensive group in 25. Book it, baby. I don't know. People go, hey, what about Berger and Norby, etc. But nah, Dane's got him covered, baby. Jace, what about you?
And where in the lineup can he end up? Can he be the cleanup guy? Maybe we'll see what he comes into spring with. I like Derek Hill too. He's grown on me over the last month or so. I think out of that group of free agent outfielders that were brought in, last man standing is Hill. He's made an impact, and I think he'd be good on this team as a complement to Dane Myers, complement to a Griffin Conine. Again, thinking Sanchez is gone. That young outfield next year could use a Derek Hill as some leadership.
Do you think, you mentioned it a couple of times, you think Jesus, you're right, he's in arbitration. And so anyone in arbitration is always on the trade block for, a Rays or Marlins organization. They're one in the same, frankly. And you expect that maybe Sanchez could be moved this offseason?
Yeah, I expected. He's one of the last guys left. He was left on this team when they were shopping everybody. He really didn't have the pedigree of an early season start to earn any value to be traded. I don't think he's ever had higher value than right now for this team. You saw him heat up. He's hit off lefties. He's hit off righties. When he's given the opportunity, he has gotten a lot of home runs. Still strikes out a lot. But I think he earned the right to be traded, earned pushing his value up to where the team doesn't want to pay him. I like Sanchez. I like him on the team. I'm not talking for me. I'm talking for the team who just traded Jazz Chisholm, who's a star, who had 3 years left of arbitration, who made $3.2 million. And Sanchez is going to earn more than that, if not that. Next year, they're going to try to dump him.
It's, again, the MO is so obvious. If you are earning more than the league minimum, they will actively look to move you at peak value. And I think that's a really important call out there, Chase, to be honest with you, is Jesus Sanchez's value at its highest point right now? Is it higher than it has ever been? I think it probably is. I think it's a really good shout that he probably is at peak value right now. Thus, maybe now is the time to move. When we think about the pitching side, we think about, is Jesus Luzardo at peak value? Well, no, because that was last offseason. But the question is, there probably is a curve with Jesus Luzardo, which he could rebuild his value, coming back and demonstrating health. But for Jesus Sanchez at this point, I think he is probably at peak. Chase, I've got to be honest with you. I would love to see Jesus Sanchez. I don't know how this happens because, listen, the Rockies they're just as bad as the Marlins, frankly. Yeah. But imagine if the Rockies went, you know what? Let's go. Charlie Blackmon's just announced he's retired. There's a spot on the roster. Maybe they go and make a move and get Jesus Sanchez in cause. That would be one hell of a hookup. No doubt about it, right?
They're a team that don't mind spending money for a bat. And he's just that, a bat who could hit it to the mile-high purple seats almost every game in that ballpark. And I want to call something out, Peter. Every year, the
Mm.
last game of the season at home, they give away these magnets, right? And every year they have players on that magnet, who's going to be the stars next year. They gave
Yeah.
out magnets on Sunday at the final game. There were no
Mhm.
players on there. No one is safe on this roster. There wasn't a
No.
Sandy on there. There wasn't a Luzardo. There wasn't a Sanchi, a Connor Norby. No one. They're not marketing towards any players next season. And that's another reason I think he's going to be gone. And I would love, just like you, for him to replace Charlie Blackmon in that Coors Field Colorado Rockies lineup.
No doubt. I think it is a perfect fit. I mean, again, whether the Rockies are actively seeking a bat, I don't know, but they should be. And Jesus Sanchez, from what we've seen in his production, I mean, everyone's production in Coors, to be honest with you, but Jesus Sanchez would be a lot of fun. Let's hit the final, lads. I want to touch on Christian Pache being DFA'd as well. That's one guy who probably won't be around in the mix in the outfield. I also want to talk about the NL East more generally. The Phillies, for the first time in many years, are the NL East Kings, and this wildcard run is looking super spicy. But before we do that, let's let you know about our good friends over at Booking.com. And this episode of Locked On Marlins is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah, and you can explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn more about, other baseball cities, with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more at Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay even in your baseball rival city during the postseason. Probably not for the Marlins fans, though. That's the only problem. Nevertheless, maybe it's time to taste test your baseball competition stadium cuisine. Luckily, on Booking.com, you can find the stadium stay that's just right for you. And with Booking.com's wide variety of choice across the U.S., you can go incognito to all your baseball rivals' cities. Booking.com delivers exactly the right US stay for you and can help you book a stay that's close to your home team's or rivals' stadium. No matter what team you're rooting for, this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any US city. From hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts to cute bed and breakfast stays, Booking.com has so many choices across the US, and the right stay can make you a fan of any US city, even your baseball rivals. It's Booking.com and Booking.yeah. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It is America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you can place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed, when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Final segment here with me, Peter Pratt, and Chase, that I'm Marlins fan, is in the house too. Chase, Christian Pache was the collateral damage here. Dane Myers back up, Pache gone. Me and Sean spoke about it yesterday, trying to piece together which way we thought they could go. Pache looked like the most obvious one. He was brought in effectively to replace Dane. Now Dane's back, Pache's gone. Former top 10 overall prospect Christian Pache bounced around in the major leagues. The Braves had a look at him. They moved him on pretty quickly. The A's decided to move on from him. It's not been the career that Pache was expecting. And frankly, I don't think he's a big league player at this point, right?
No. Nothing good or bad to say about him. He's just the body. He filled in the role. I think he maybe got one home run, maybe. Got some okay hits here and there. But he did not do anything in my mind that we got to keep him. He stood out. No, he didn't even earn the playing time over the last month and a half that you'd expect from a top 10 prospect. And you feel bad for guys. Prospects, there's more failure than there is that succeed in this game, and he's one of them. And you wish him the best. Maybe he'll be in our minor league system, but when you can't make it on the Oakland Athletics and you can't make it on the Miami Marlins, there aren't many more spots for you.
I mean, Chase, that is the most perfect assessment I think I've ever heard, and that is totally true. If you are Christian Pache and you can't make it on the A's or the Marlins, in these seasons, then that's probably an indicator that you're probably struggling. Let's flip the script here a touch, talk about the wider topics here. The NL East was claimed. We have new kings in the East, and it's the Phillies. Obviously, they went the deepest in the postseason from the NL East cluster last season. They spanked the Marlins in the wild card series. But the NL East is now the Phillies division. The interesting part for me is the wild card battle, though, which is looking super spicy because the Mets look dead. They look like they were selling everyone like multiple months ago, and the Mets have they've found a way to get it done. They're currently in the wild card 2 spot. The Bravos are currently 1.5 games back from the wild card 3 spot. Huge series. There's a Braves Mets series on deck here this week, 3 games. So that's going to be super fun. But man, oh man, no one could have predicted that the Braves would be here a week left in the season, 1.5 games out of the wild card picture itself, mate. I know they've been dealing with injuries, but do you feel any degree of sympathy for the Braves fans?
Because Braves fans have been so nice to me over the last year or two on social media, yes, I feel sympathy for you. And I feel sympathy for this. You are so used to winning. You are so used to hanging your hat on winning the division. You don't know what it feels like to be in a wild card race or a race of where your team may not make the playoffs. Welcome to reality. Normally, your team doesn't win 6, 7, 8 league championships or division championships in a row. The Phillies, the Mets, the Braves, they have all won the division some way, shape, or form in the last, I want to say 13, 14 years. Congrats to the Phillies. I hope you Philly fans have the Braves experience where you win the division and then you get knocked out in round 2, the divisional round. You take your break, you get knocked out. Really, Pete, let's get in this, right? You got the Mets first, Braves the next 3. Then I think the Braves take on Milwaukee, and the Mets are away. Braves are home, Mets are away. The Diamondbacks here are also in the mix. We can't forget about them, who were the hottest team going into the playoffs last year. You have the Giants.
They got the Padres the last series.
Yep, Padres and Giants. Now, who's going to be resting who is big? But the Mets-Braves series between tonight, Tuesday, and Thursday, it's going to be fun to watch. These players don't like each other. This is interdivision. I love it. This is playoff baseball in the season. This is what we were experiencing last season, trying to clinch that spot, and it's a division rivalry. Woo! I love it. Braves beat the Mets. I want to see the disappointment on the Mets fans, and I want you to play this on loop. Mets fans, you've been nice to me also, but let's be realistic here. Go Braves. I don't want anything to do with your team that spends so much money and talks so much garbage. Braves fans, welcome to our level. I hope you make it.
You're right though, mate. It is effectively, this is a postseason game or postseason series happening, 3-game series. If the Mets take the series, then for me, I think that probably knocks the Braves out. Like if the Mets can win 2 out of 3. And I know there's a load of weather issues happening in Atlanta as well. They're trying to maybe flex to a double header one of the days. So, that's not going to favor the Bravos probably. So it's all cooking on.
If you remember this exact point last year, the Mets were rained out, and then they screwed up their field to screw the Marlins and to not make the playoffs. Well, I hope the same happens to you, Mets. I hope the Braves give you that doubleheader. I hope you're slipping and sliding on their field. No injuries, of course, but go Bravos.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, no doubt. And that is one of my fondest memories of 2023, that image of Skip Schumaker out there with the Mets grounds crew trying to get the tarp on or off or whatever they were doing. That was very, very 2023. Skip Schumaker, it appears, is likely to end his Marlins tenure after just 2 seasons. He spoke very eloquently after the game on Sunday and basically said, It's been a lot of ups and downs. It's been, a great couple of years, a lot of friendships made. It felt to me like almost goodbye. He didn't confirm that. I did say I'm not going to speak about it again until after Sunday. But it does feel like this is the end with Skip and the Marlins. There's a few vacancies, brewing. The Reds look like, the Reds will be hiring. The Mariners will be hiring. The White Sox will be hiring. Maybe a few other vacancies. So where do you see Skip landing for 2025?
Funny you asked that question. I've been saying it for 2 seasons with you. Skip Schumaker will be the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals starting next season. He'll be in camp in Jupiter, just not on this side of the dugout or this dugout. It's a match made in heaven. I know he played for the Reds. I don't see him picking the Reds over the Cardinals job. He will be a St. Louis Cardinals manager. It's just happening. I'm going to miss you, Skip. I don't know what pains me more, Pete, you leaving Locked On or Skip Schumaker leaving the Marlins. One hurts more, of course, you leaving. We have a great relationship, but, you see greatness in a manager like Skip Schumaker, whether it was only a 2-year plan or not, we'll never know. But, he showed he belongs as a manager in the game, and his professionalism and his attention to detail of coaching these players to be competitive every game will be missed. It's a total night and day to what Don Mattingly brought. So I hope whoever they bring in, that's for another discussion, whoever they bring in can continue pushing his narrative of holding accountability every day.
I agree. Spoke plenty about Skip on this show in the 2 years he's been here, and he's almost been flawless in my opinion, and he will be badly missed by this organization. They're gonna, whoever they take on, and it's likely to be, maybe it's going to be like maybe another first-time manager. They give another guy a shot. I don't know, but whoever it is, my gut feel is a little bit of a step back, because I think Skip is special actually, and I think we're going to miss him pretty sizably. One final one, then we'll get out of here because we're running a touch long, which is standard, but it's fun. I've asked everyone this question, so I'll ask it to you as well, Chase. Crystal ball's open, mate. Look ahead. The farm system is okay. The pitching's coming back. New managers required. Bendix is doing his thing. Crystal ball, tell me the next season, which season is it that the Marlins make the postseason?
2026.
2020. That feels like quite a popular one.
I hope 2025. I'm not saying we can't do it next year. This pitching staff on paper can be the best pitching staff in the majors. But will these young talents who they've brought in be ready to step their game up, to be behind that pitching, to give Sandy the run support that he's never gotten before, to give Jesus Luzardo less pressure so he doesn't injure himself every year? Brax, who knows what's going to happen with Eddie? But can whoever is at the plate or on the field back up their pitching staff next season? That's what you have to wait and see. But 2026, Thomas White, that kid's going to be a stud as long as he stays healthy. You got Noble Meyer. Who knows what Max can turn into if he can take a step up next year. I don't see it next year. I see it 2026, 2027, the latest. With Peter Bendix having to do something and sign major league help. You can't do it alone with prospects. The Raves had to bring in players, veterans to help out their young players. He has to do the same.
Yeah. I think that is the key question this offseason and for the next few off seasons, because the payroll is going to be so low that these are the decisions. Is they maybe have a finite budget to work within, but there's flexibility this offseason. They'll be the same next offseason. How does Bendix layer talent into the organization and supplement the farm system and the prospects that he's acquired? That's the key question. And that's one for another day, no doubt about it. And for another multiple episodes. Chase, thanks for joining me on Locked On Marlins, mate. It's our final one together, no doubt. So I appreciate you. I know you've been a multi guest or episode guest. So I appreciate you all through the 3 years that I've been hosting the show, and I really appreciate that. I know the fans always enjoy it too.
Right back at you, Peter. I wish you all the best in whatever you do next. I know you're not going to be a stranger to the Marlins fan base, and you'll be somewhere. If it's not just on social media, we look forward to you taking the next step. And thank you. Thank you for giving Locked On a platform, taking it from the former host to what you've built it up to. I think you deserve a standing ovation, a round of applause. People, if you're watching, leave it in the comments thanking Peter here for what he's done to help the fan base out and have a place to vent and talk. Thank you, Peter.
I appreciate you, mate, no doubt. Guys, thanks everyone for hopping onto the episode today and joining us and making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. We're back tomorrow, guys, because, well, it's Wednesday. We'll be recapping game 1 of this Twins series, carrying on the conversation, no doubt about it. Guest to be determined, but there will be one because it's the final week and we want to get as many on the show as we can. Thanks again to Chase. Thanks to you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.